When God's favor is about to change everything in your life, one of the first signs you will notice is that doors you could never open on your own begin to swing wide. These aren't just ordinary doors. They are opportunities that no amount of striving, planning, or networking could have brought about. You see, God specializes in opening doors that no man can shut. Sometimes we spend years trying to push our way through a door that isn't meant for us, exhausting ourselves, knocking and knocking, wondering why it won't budge. And then in His perfect A, He leads us to a door that opens effortlessly because He Himself has placed His hand on it. His favor changes the atmosphere. The same people who once overlooked you will suddenly notice you. The same opportunities that felt impossible will suddenly be within reach, not because you did something different, but because God has decided it is your time. We often think favor looks like something we can measure. Maybe a promotion at work, financial blessings, or recognition from others. And while those things can be signs of God's favor, the truest sign is that He orchestrates things in ways you could never imagine. A phone call comes out of nowhere. A relationship forms that changes the trajectory of your life. A plan you thought was dead is suddenly revived, and you realize God had been working behind the scenes all along. That is what favor looks like. It's God showing you that what He has planned for your life is not dependent on your strength, but on His will. When you live in faith, you don't have to manipulate outcomes or force things to happen. You don't have to be anxious, wondering if you're missing your chance. God's timing is never late. That closed door you cried over may very well have been His way of protecting you, because He had a greater one prepared. His favor makes things clear in a way that striving never could. And when He opens a door, you'll know it's Him because it will feel effortless, peaceful, and perfectly aligned with His purpose for your life. You might be standing right now in a season where all you see are closed doors, but that does not mean God's favor is absent. Sometimes He closes the wrong doors before He opens the right one. He wants you to trust Him, to lean on His understanding rather than your own. The enemy will whisper lies, trying to make you believe you've missed your moment, or that it's too late for God to do something new. But God doesn't work according to our deadlines. He is not limited by what others say or by what your circumstances look like. He opens doors no man can shut. And when His favor is at work, even those who oppose you won't be able to stop His plan. All throughout Scripture, we see this pattern. Joseph was locked in a prison cell, forgotten by man, but not by God. At the right time, God opened a door that elevated him from a prisoner to a ruler in a single day. Daniel was thrown into a den of lions, but the door of safety and promotion opened when he trusted God. Esther, an orphaned girl, was placed in a position to save her people because God opened doors no one else could. What God has done before, He will do again. So don't get discouraged if the doors you're knocking on haven't opened yet. Keep walking in faith. Keep your heart pure and trust that when the time is right, God will open the right door. And when He does, You won't have to question whether it's His hand, because it will lead you to blessings that no man can take away. Another sign that God's favor is about to change everything in your life is that the things that used to shake you no longer have the same power over you. The storms may not have stopped, but something in your spirit has shifted. You've gone through seasons where you felt completely broken, where fear seemed to grip your heart and doubt whispered that nothing would ever change. Yet here you are, still standing. That's not by your strength. That's God's hand preparing you for what's next. He has been building resilience in you, refining you through the trials, and teaching you to trust Him even when the answers don't come right away. What you thought would crush you has only strengthened your faith, and that is often the clearest indication that a breakthrough is near. You see, before God pours out His blessings, He prepares your heart to carry them. He doesn't just give us His favor for a moment. He wants us to be able to walk in it for a lifetime. And so, He allows us to go through seasons where we are stripped of pride, of self-reliance, and of anything that would keep us from fully depending on Him. It may not feel like favor when you're walking through loss, rejection, or betrayal, but those very moments are shaping you to stand firm in what He is about to do. The enemy hopes those trials will make you bitter or cause you to walk away, but God intends them to make you stronger and more secure in His love. Think about the way a tree's roots grow deeper during a storm. When the winds are fierce, the roots anchor themselves deeper into the ground, ensuring the tree can stand no matter what comes against it. That's what God is doing in you. The trials you've faced weren't meant to destroy you, but to strengthen your foundation, so when His favor is revealed, you will be able to handle the weight of His blessing. He's been teaching you to stop looking at people for validation, to stop relying on your own understanding, and to rest in His promises alone. This inner transformation is a powerful sign that your season is about to change. When you find yourself at peace in situations that used to cause you fear, when you can worship in the middle of uncertainty, when you can forgive people who hurt you without demanding an apology, that's evidence of God working deeply within you. That's not something you could produce on your own. That's His Spirit renewing your mind and strengthening your faith. And when God sees you trusting Him like that, He knows you're ready for what He's prepared. Favor isn't just about blessings coming to you. It's about you being prepared to steward those blessings well, without being consumed by them. This is why you can't despise the season you're in, even if it feels difficult. You may not see all the details yet, but God is aligning every piece of your story. The changes happening inside you are just as important as the changes you're praying to see on the outside. He is teaching you that peace is not the absence of trouble. It is the presence of His Spirit within you. That's why you can walk through a fire and not be burned. Why you can face opposition and not be afraid. It's because your heart has learned to trust Him completely, and that is a sure sign that His favor is on the horizon. So, if you feel a strength rising in you that you didn't have before, hold on to it, because that's God preparing you for the very breakthrough you've been praying for. Another sign that God's favor is about to change everything for you is that doors you once tried to open on your own begin to open effortlessly in His timing. For so long, you may have felt like you were pushing against locked doors, straining with all your strength to make something happen, only to find disappointment waiting on the other side. You prayed, you worked, you waited, and still nothing seemed to move. But that was because God was protecting you. He wasn't denying you. He was redirecting you. He knew that if you stepped through certain doors too soon, they would lead to frustration instead of fulfillment. And now, when the time is right, He is about to open those doors so wide that no one can shut them. When God's favor begins to shift your life, it won't be because you manipulated circumstances or forced things to happen. It will be because He ordained it. And when He does it, it will happen so smoothly, so supernaturally, that you will know without a doubt that it was Him. All those moments you felt overlooked, all those seasons where your faith was tested, they were never wasted. God was using them to prepare you, to build your character, and to make sure that when His blessing came, you would recognize it as His hand and not your own effort. There's a peace that comes when you realize you don't have to chase after what God has already reserved for you. Sometimes we spend so much energy trying to open doors that were never meant for us. We knock and knock, only to hear silence. And when that happens, we often feel rejected. But in reality, God is protecting us. He sees the future you can't see yet. He knows which opportunities would take further from your purpose, and which ones will lead you closer to His will. The waiting may have felt like punishment, but it was really preparation. When you understand that, you start to embrace the delay because you trust the one who holds the key. Think about how Joseph must have felt in the prison after being betrayed by his brothers and forgotten by those he helped. In the natural, it looked like his story was over. But in a single moment, God's favor lifted him out of that prison and placed him in a position of authority that no man could have orchestrated. That's how God works. It doesn't take Him years to change your life. He can turn things around in a day. The key is trusting His timing, because when He opens a door, it's not just an opportunity, it's destiny. And this is why you can rest even when you don't see movement yet. Because when God moves, He moves suddenly. He aligns people, circumstances, and opportunities in ways that prove He was working behind the scenes the entire time. All the no's you heard, all the closed doors you faced, all the tears you shed, they were leading you to the right door. And when it opens, you won't have to force it. You'll simply walk through it with the confidence that it's been prepared for you all along. So if it feels like everything has been standing still, don't lose heart. The season you're in right now is proof that God is preparing to do something greater than you could have imagined. The right door is about to open, and when it does, it will change everything. Another sign that God's favor is about to change everything for you is that He starts removing certain people and things from your life, even when you don't fully understand why. Sometimes God's preparation doesn't come in the form of addition, but in subtraction. He begins to clear away relationships that were holding you back, environments that were damaging your spirit, and habits that kept you from stepping into His blessing. And while this process often feels painful, it is part of His loving protection. God knows what you need for the next chapter, and He knows what cannot come with you. What feels like loss is often divine pruning, a way of making room for something far greater than what you had before. Many of us struggle in this season because our hearts are tied to the familiar. We think that if something is being taken away, it must mean something is wrong with us or that we are being punished. But that is not the case. The Bible tells us that every branch that bears fruit is pruned so that it may bear even more fruit. God's pruning is not rejection. It is preparation. He is making sure that the blessings He is about to pour into your life won't be wasted or choked out by distractions. Sometimes the people who walked away, the job that didn't work out, the plans that suddenly fell apart, those were all part of His design to position you for His favor. It can be difficult to accept when God closes doors or allows relationships to end. We often want to cling to what is comfortable because we fear change. But if we truly trust Him, we must also trust that He sees what we cannot. He knows what lies ahead, and He knows what it will take for us to thrive in that season. The very thing you thought you couldn't live without may be the thing that was holding you back from living in the fullness of His calling. It takes faith to let go, but when you do, you create space for Him to bring the right people, the right opportunities, and the right timing into your life. We see this truth reflected in Scripture over and over again. When God called Abraham, He told him to leave his country, his people, and his father's house, and go to a land that He would show him. Abraham had to step away from the familiar to walk into the promise. When God called the disciples, they left their nets, their livelihoods, and everything they knew to follow Jesus. And in each case, their obedience led to a blessing that they could never have imagined. Sometimes God has to strip away the old to prepare us for the new, and His favor is often revealed in what He removes as much as in what He gives. So if you feel like things are being taken away, don't despair. God is not trying to hurt you. He is setting you up for something greater. He is refining your life so that when His favor arrives, you are ready to carry it well. Trust that the pruning is a sign of His care and that every loss is making room for a blessing. And when the time comes, you'll see that nothing you surrendered was worth more than what He's about to place in your hands. Another powerful sign that God's favor is about to change everything for you is when He begins to shift your perspective. What once caused you fear begins to stir up faith. What once weighed you down begins to look like an opportunity for growth. This is not something you force or create by your own willpower. It is the Spirit of God working within you, transforming your mind so that you can see through the eyes of faith instead of the lens of worry. When God's favor is near, He aligns your thoughts with His truth. And suddenly, instead of dreading what is next, you begin to expect something good. Instead of focusing on the obstacles, you begin to focus on the one who is able to move them. Many times, before the outward blessing comes, the inner transformation takes place. God knows that unless our thoughts are renewed, we will not be able to handle His favor. He doesn't want us to misuse His blessings or see them only as temporary relief. He wants us to see them as stepping stones into His greater plan. That's why He begins by changing the way we think. The circumstances may not shift immediately, but the way we view them does. What once looked like defeat begins to look like preparation. What once felt like delay begins to feel like God's timing. That shift in perspective is not just optimism. It is the evidence that God is preparing you for His favor. Think about how often God's people in the Bible had to see with spiritual eyes before they saw anything with their natural eyes. When Joshua and Caleb looked at the promised land, they saw giants just like the other spies did. But while the others saw impossibility, Joshua and Caleb saw opportunity. Their faith-filled perspective set them apart, and eventually, it positioned them to walk into the blessing. When God's favor is about to change everything in your life, He begins to plant that same kind of vision inside of you. You begin to see not only what is, but what God is about to do. You begin to sense that your current situation is not your final destination. It's easy to miss this sign because we often look for something external, a new job, a breakthrough, a sudden blessing. But God often starts with something internal. He changes your outlook so that when the external blessing does come, you won't miss it or dismiss it. You'll recognize it as His favor because your heart has already been trained to expect His goodness. And this is important because if we carry the same fearful, doubtful mindset into a season of blessing, we'll sabotage it with worry and unbelief. But if our minds are renewed, if we have already begun to walk by faith, then we'll step into that blessing ready to receive it with gratitude and confidence. Perhaps you've noticed that lately, you don't panic as easily as you used to. Maybe the things that once kept you up at night no longer have the same grip on you. Maybe you've even caught yourself smiling at situations that used to bring you stress because something inside of you is whispering, God is about to work this out. That is not coincidence. That is the Spirit of God at work, shifting your perspective so you can be ready for His favor. So when your thoughts begin to change, when fear is replaced with faith, when despair is replaced with hope, and when doubt is replaced with expectation, take it as a sign that God's favor is near. Because before He changes your circumstances, He changes your perspective, and once you see through His eyes, you are ready for the blessing He is about to release. Another powerful sign that God's favor is about to change everything in your life is when He begins to bring unexpected opportunities and divine connections your way. Often, these are not things you plan or orchestrate on your own. They're not the result of your own striving or pushing to make things happen. Rather, they come when you least expect them. And you know deep in your heart that only God could have arranged them. It could be a conversation that opens a door you didn't even know existed. A person who shows up in your life at just the right time, or a situation that shifts in your favor without your effort. When God's favor is moving, you will start to see His fingerprints all over your life, and it becomes clear that what's happening is not luck or coincidence, but His divine hand at work. The beauty of God's favor is that it often flows through ordinary circumstances in extraordinary ways. A chance encounter may lead to a new beginning. A setback that felt like an ending might turn into the very thing that launches you into your destiny. We see this all throughout Scripture. Think of Joseph, who was betrayed by his brothers and sold into slavery. On the surface, it seemed like his life was falling apart, but God was arranging every detail to put him in a position of influence. Joseph didn't force his way into Pharaoh's palace. God's favor placed him there. The very people and circumstances that seemed like obstacles became the pathway to His purpose. That's how God works. He takes what looks ordinary, even painful, and transforms it into the foundation for something incredible. When God is preparing to change everything for you, you may also notice that He begins to remove certain people or opportunities from your life. At first, it might feel like loss or rejection, but often God is clearing the way for the right people and the right opportunities. He knows what relationships will support your calling and which ones will hold you back. He knows which doors need to close so that the right ones can open. Sometimes His favor doesn't just add to your life. It subtracts from it not to harm you, but to prepare you. If you found yourself in a season where things or people have walked away, take heart. It could be God's way of aligning you for His greater purpose. It's important to remember that favor is not always loud or obvious at first. Sometimes it starts with a quiet nudge, a sense of peace about a decision, or a door that opens that feels almost too easy to walk through. And as you take small steps of faith, God continues to confirm that you're on the right path. That's because His favor is not just about blessing you. It's about positioning you to fulfill His plan for your life. It's about orchestrating every detail so that His glory shines through your story. If you've been feeling like your life is being rearranged, if you've seen doors close and others open unexpectedly, or if new connections and opportunities are coming out of nowhere, take that as a sign that God's favor is moving. He is putting pieces together that you cannot yet see. Trust Him in this season, because what He is preparing is far greater than anything you could arrange for yourself. His favor will take you further than your talent, your efforts, or your plans ever could. And when He begins to move, nothing and no one can stand in His way.